I wonder if I should try to splice this into the start of the video. Welcome back. Welcome back to Enigmatica 2 Expert Extended Edition. So as you might be able to see, the base has changed a little bit since I've probably made my last recording, which was the creeper farm. I decided, because I was kind of getting a little sad and sick of this world, I was thinking about stopping, but just getting rid of the gray in here has put me in a better mood, I guess I could say. Taking a quick look at the quest book here, I still have a lot of unclaimed quests because I haven't really decided which reward I want to select, even though I guess in this instance it's not a very tough choice. Looking at the magic, actually maybe looking at the gates. Mainly, I've been spending a lot of time in computer craft, actually, so no progression's been made. I'm just trying to do complicated things, hitting roadblocks, giving up, dabbling in some magic, and then going back to computer craft. But for now, I wanted to talk about a couple magic mods. Looking at Thaumcraft first, I'd actually recorded a bit of the stuff, but my audio has kind of been scuffed the last little while. I mean, it's never really been good, so I've made a lot of changes. I'm hoping the audio is better now. But a lot of that footage was just kind of boring because when you go through Thaumcraft, it's fairly linear when you're trying to unlock the different stages of this Thauminomicon, whatever it's called. So nothing too exciting's been done. I've just kind of done the bare minimum to progress to other mods. So I don't suspect I'm going to show much in Thaumcraft unless it's actually somewhat interesting automation. If it's just kind of playing Thaumcraft as people normally would, I won't really show it unless I'm integrating it with other mods. Astral Sorcery, same kind of idea. You know, brute force my way through without understanding it, which is what I've done here. So nothing too exciting there. And then Botania. Botania, out of all magic mods not really being my favorite, is the one I probably like the most. Scratch that. It's probably Blood Magic is the one I like the most, and then maybe Botania. And basically, it's because they're pretty cool to automate. The progression tree was not too interesting. I made the Endo Flame like everybody does, and then I tried making a TNT explosion flower. And I should just comment on this. When I first saw this, I said, ooh, explosions. Well, look, we have a creeper farm right there. And there's a vanilla mechanic that if you use a flint and steel on a creeper, it explodes. So I was programming a turtle to use a flint and steel on creepers, and it works. But the creepers don't explode because apparently it has to be a player doing it, which is really too bad. This only works with TNT, which is fine because we still have a creeper farm that I have to actually start collecting the TNT, but potentially I can make infinite TNT because I have the gunpowder, and then I have the sand. Now this is actually a very cool mechanic that I learned by watching Tomat. If I'm pronouncing his name right, I hope. He's another YouTuber who's playing this pack. I had completely forgotten, or I didn't even know in the first place, that when you mix liquid Starlight from Astral Sorcery with lava, it actually makes sand. And when that sand falls and hits a slab, it breaks, and then we have an advanced collector with a filter to pick up sand, putting it into here. And what's really cool with this setup is I've got if I shift right click here, a redstone upgrade. So if my level is at, what are we at here? 71. Yeah, we're at 71 stacks out of 80, if I'm looking at those numbers correctly, approximately. And if I was to pull some, what's going to happen here is nothing. And there's some kind of a block update that happens when I leave the game and come back in. Even though it's a server, I don't know if it's a chunk load issue or what it is, but this emitter is the problem. It needs a block update. It also needs a lever on this side to enable it, but it's set to 12, right? And so if I update this, it should work now, but let's just keep walking around here. So we got a comparator that reads the level, and as long as the level in this drawer is higher than, I think it has to be 13, 14, or 15, which is your max redstone signal. Let's say the Drawers at 13 minus 12, because we're in subtraction mode, it pushes through at least a 1, which then closes this off. So I need to get rid of this block because it's got some quirky functions whenever I leave the game or leave the chunk. And now that I take all the sand out, this thing is just running, and you can see the numbers going up. And then if I slam them back in, it shuts off. And what's really cool too, just by happenstance, but when the sand gets pushed or the cobblestone gets pushed out, sand actually shows up here, and then it drops, and it breaks on this. And sometimes I've seen it where it double gets pushed out, and I think it breaks on this too, if I'm remembering or if I've seen that correctly. So it actually is self-cleaning, which is kind of cool. I just have to replace this because it has a quirky behavior when you leave the chunk. Maybe I should grab a shovel. Is there a shovel in here? Put it in your offhand. Use the vein miner on the pickaxe. Oh no. Oh, I forgot to take the charcoal out of that. What is that noise? So this is also something that I learned. What is that noise? I'm distracted here. Something else I learned from Tamat was forestry. I didn't know that. Yeah, here, charcoal pile. So if you fill this completely full, and I think every space has to be full of a wood pile, but there can't be any air or it doesn't work. But using these different materials, you get different rates of charcoal and ash. But what's really upsetting, not really upsetting, I guess that's the wrong word, but I thought I could be clever, because you have to close it off after you light it on fire. You put all the charcoal in, but this doesn't work. It has to be actually like a player placed block. So if I was to light the charcoal on fire and close it, it doesn't work, which is really too bad. I keep putting great wood planks there and they keep disappearing. It's because there's lava. It's actually catching fire. Woohoo. Well, at least we know treated wood doesn't burn. I don't know what I'm going to do there. Armor? I'm just noticing this now. This was my retired set of armor. Whoops. Got a new set of armor that is basically Thaumium and Dragon Bone. I forget the stats, but it's pretty easy to look up in Tinkers, but I quite like it because you can actually drink milk. Whoops. And it heals your armor. Look how much durability it has because of the Dragon Bone. I forget why I used the Thaumium. I guess instead of just talking about it, I could just actually look. Thaumium. A free modifier slot and weapon. Okay, so I probably won't get any perks from that. You know what? It was because of... I got the wrong book. Okay. Materials in new Armoury. This guy. Duh. Now where's the Thaumium now? Modifiable and shielding. Additional protection against magic. So I don't exactly know what counts as magic. Like, do blazes count as magic with the fireball? I'm not sure. But it's the durability and the defense is shockingly high. And in terms of getting the Thaumium, even when I'm basically barely into Thaumcraft, it's very easy to get these ingots. So I made my cores out of that. And then the plates and the trim are made out of Dragon Bone. Which of course gets you... Milk rejuvenates you and your armor, and Skeletal makes your armor tougher. And this modifier of 17 basically takes my durability up to 8,000 or 7,000. So it's pretty insane armor. Maybe not the best, but I think it's close to diamond tier. The next big change, my clustered little storage room. I think what I'm going to do here is bring more compacting drawers down. I'm going to move some of my XNet cabling, try to tidy it up. Anything that gets processed in my previously shown mechanism or IC2 areas. It's put into here. So this of course needs to be lowered so I can reach it in my new crafting area down below. And anything I mine with my other pickaxe that has Global Traveler automatically gets linked to this crate and sent here. And then anything that exists in these drawers, of course, would get pulled out of the crate and put away. And if there's no spot for it to live, it just stays there. And same with ores. If I mine ores with my Global Traveler pick, they'll end up in here, and then they immediately get sent to the macerator and then the tinker's smeltery for processing, which was all covered in previous videos. So I'll throw that ash away because it's right there. And this is my new crafting area. I decided I needed a bit more room, so here it be. And I tried to organize it like, you know, food by mods. We got rat stuff in here, and then here doesn't really have much organization. The one thing though that I don't understand is if we look at Botania and I search for rune, I spent the last half an hour trying to figure this out. Great, we can find runes, right? And let's say we're looking for, I don't know, slime. It shows slime, right? But if we go over to these drawers, if I try to search for cable, nothing. If I try to search for networking, and originally I thought, okay, maybe it's not the name, but it's the, what do you call it? Yeah, it's this computer craft cable. Again, even if I search for cable, it doesn't show up. And if I stick these runes in here, it doesn't show up. So I don't understand what's going on. Originally, I was thinking maybe the inventory is too full. It can't index everything, but you take like an empty crate, like this one. Interesting. Huh. It works there. But not this one, which arguably has less stuff in it. And the search doesn't work for any of this stuff. If I try to search for plate, it will not work in there. I can't search with this Vaultopic thing anymore in these crates or in these crates. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a proximity thing to something I've put here, because it seems to be these ones that don't work. And I do know, actually, if I search mana, we don't find anything. But if I was to pick this up and stick it here, that's really weird, isn't it? A bit of a hallway that eventually will wrap down somehow to the area below, which is all below my square little swamp fortress, and I've turned it all to stone brick just as a placeholder. As much as I don't like gray, the brick is nicer to look at than the stone. So these machines don't have a place to live yet, they're just kind of there. And then of course XNet. I'm probably going to have XNet in here. Botania. So here's my TNT flower. If you're not familiar with Botania, you can throw on these Manaseer monocles and it actually shows you a lot of information, like the range of this flower. So any TNT that explodes in this distance, as long, and this is very important, as long as there is no mana in there, the TNT will not explode. If there is, anything near the TNT will get destroyed. And I've done a bunch of rework to this area. Oh, that's also why I added this storage scanner. It's very cheap to make. Do I have it in here somewhere? Storage scanner. I think I used the steel casing. It's really cool, actually. They give you all these different options. But basically, you can scan. I set it to an 11 block radius, and I removed a bunch of stuff I didn't want. If you don't want something to show up, like these compacting drawers really shouldn't be there, you can remove them. And then if you make stuff routable, presumably when you try to autocraft stuff, it gets pulled or it gets pushed back. So it's kind of awkward. I was never a fan of this device. I really prefer this device, but for some reason the searching function is broken because of my placement. So boom, this flower is full and he does not have a spreader, which is fine. I'm going to actually leave this here. I'm curious if that will stay full for a long time. So like everybody does when they first get into Botania here, you got the Endo Flame, but it decays after 1 real-life hour. So I had made like 32 of them or something. It was a crazy amount, and I was going through them like crazy, trying to keep my mana pools full with my coal or my charcoal. That's kind of why I built that little forestry charcoal pile thing over there. It's cool. It worked. I was trying to use the turtle here to automate the runic altar, and it's promising, but I spent a good like my whole day yesterday, and it's not worth showing, so it doesn't work to say the least. And here I've got an absolute mess of trees, so I'm actually going to go back here and turn this harvester, this forester on. If you remember from the beginning, this forester doesn't require power, it just runs. And if we look here at Munchdew, it eats nearby leaves and converts them to mana. And all it takes is a gluttony rune and some petals. And I actually went through, if we look at Botania and type runes, I went through and I've made a bunch of these up until I think the rune of summer, because it requires alchemical brass. I made some winter, and haven't made the rest of these except for gluttony, because it took winter and fire. And through this gluttony, I was able to make the Munchdew. Aha! I'm noticing I can't even make the cake flour that everybody loves to use with Astral Sorcery. There's a ritual in Astral to turn pumpkins into cake, which work great with this, but of course you need the pixie dust, which is requiring the Elven Gateway core, which requires Terra Steel, which I don't have, and I just recently, last night, unlocked the Celestial Altar. You know what? I don't think I did. Nope, scratch that. I unlocked the Starlight Altar. I don't have this yet. And the reason I don't have this yet is because I do not have blood magic yet. Maybe I should favorite this so I can work towards this. I've got all of this stuff except for the Demon Will, which of course uses killing a mob or by throwing a snare at it. And if we look back at the gates here, yes, I gotta make these, which is just a little bit of Thaumcraft. All of this is very doable. So I guess I should hotkey this to start that. All this Botania talks made me realize I've glossed over an important tip, and that is collecting Thaumium in the Nether. Through the power of editing, I'll be splicing this footage in, but the Freezing Doll and the Breezing Doll are very interesting, as well as the Crushing Doll. Fairly cheap to make, just bone meal and clay. You got emeralds, you can get 6 of them, but you can make Shulkers, Guardians, Endermans, Blazes, Blue Slime, Basalls, Blitzes, and Blizzes. So we run over to our elite kill chamber, and you can see it spawning. Through the magic of bottles, we hurry that along. So great, I just picked up some of this stuff. And what's really too bad is I didn't even pick up the stuff that I was looking for. If using a looting sword like I did, I should have got a basalt's rod. I didn't. But you get these rods, and that's great, right? Which gets you this powder. That's what you need to make many of these runes. Just standing here waiting for these trees to get chopped down slowly. You know what? Let's turn this off. And let's just vein mine it. Okay, so that is the Munchdews doing their thing. Tore down some of these trees here so I can more easily try to explain how this farm is supposed to work. And they're growing faster than I can talk. Munchdews, Botania magic. So in terms of early game Botania in this pack, I've been kind of humming and hawing. Endoflame, of course, the 1 hour decay. I'm really liking early game the Munchdew. Now that some of these trees are clear and the machine's off, I can actually hear myself talk. We got the 2 Munchdews. They're full. And the reason they're full is because these guys are full, which is very nice to see. I made some of the area stone brick. I can definitely see myself needing to make more of the area stone brick because these trees grow too closely and kind of obstruct the view. I don't know if the leaves obstruct the spreader, but solid blocks for sure do. So this harvester here just has saplings in it, and right now I have it controlled by redstone. Originally I was trying to use a comparator that if these are full, you know, shut off the harvester, but everything's kind of too compact here. I'm probably going to have to run it below because of everything growing up top, which is fine. I don't want to go down because it's in the mud and the water and it's awkward to move. So I'm just procrastinating. So I got the lever here. But the end goal would be redstone control. If your mana pools are full, shut off the harvester because we don't want a bunch of entities making like a leg farm. Hopperhock's kind of cool. It got full mana. It's connected to one of those mana pools right there. You can kind of see the pink outline through the leaves. It uses a very small amount of mana, and it has a mode. Pick up only items in frames. If I shift right click, pick up items not in the frame, or pick up any items. So we want this to be only items in the frame. And I threw down a sapling on this forester, which again requires no power. But I do have it requiring a redstone signal, so it's off right now. So that's cool. This thing will slowly, and when I say slowly, I mean slowly chop down the logs because it's got no power. And that allows the Munchdews to kind of take priority because they're going to eat leaves much faster than this thing can chop down a tree. So I'm always going to get positive mana out of a tree growth if it needs to. But of course, everything's full right now. And then I have another Hopperhock up here. And this guy I made into one of those floating ones, which allows me to plant it anywhere. It can be in the air. It doesn't have to be on grass. So it's just floating on this. And it's just set to pick up any items. And because it's a drawer, it can only pick up, of course, whatever I've locked it to. And I'm just realizing right now, it's not locked to anything. But I suspect at some point this will need a void upgrade. Where's my flue pouch? Boom. So taking a quick look over at the Thaumcraft area, we can see that we've got a healthy amount of disaster forming. I'm actually shocked at how many danger snakes there are. I don't know if I ever showed that, so maybe it's worth just quickly looking at. But I've got the kinetic module in place, and then I also have an introspection module in place to forget why I use that. That one's probably not important. But this guy basically lets me do a quick check. So if I go Control T to terminate, if we edit Rocketmans, basically we look for the neural connector, we find it. If we don't find it, then generate an error. But the main function here is print the Rocketmans running, and every time the loop runs, it gets, aha, that's why I use the introspection, is I get the equipment of the player, and then I check the offhand. The offhand is equal to list 2, I suppose. Because your get equipment, if I remember correctly, is this and this. So looking at what the list that's returned, it's element 2. in that array is what your offhand is. And so if the offhand has something in it, then check if it equals the open blocks hang glider. And I got a loop here, but really not really a loop because it's running once, but the neural connector launches it power of 2 straight up in the air. I think that's like a yaw or a pitch. I forget how that works. One of these is yaw, one of these is pitch. And max level of power you can use is 4. And then sleep for 0.3 seconds, and then run again. And then sleep again before you run the whole thing again. And it works not bad for how simple it is. Control exit, I guess. So anytime I log off or die, I have to run Rocket Man's, but it's running. And then when we detect it's in my offhand, it actually engages pretty quickly. But I won't take fall damage as long as I have like over 5 or 7 blocks to fall. Alright, I'm waiting for nighttime here, and I feel like I could maybe say a few words on this Akashic's Tomb. So in a previous episode, I had warned people about using the Lexica Botania, but if you throw this book through an Elven Gateway, what's returned is the higher tier that has the Elven magic. But because this is technically an Akashic's Tomb, it gets confused, and I think the elves don't give it back. If you throw an item into an Elven Gateway, which is what this thing was, they don't know what it is, it just gets trashed. So I was warning people to, whoops, do not do that. And same with the Thaumium. There is a reward in here somewhere. I forget where. I don't know if it was part of the add-ons that are over here or this guy, but when you're not paying attention, one of them was the Thaumium, and I click complete and it actually submits it. So it deletes it, which is fine, right? Just make another one. The problem is with Astral Sorcery, if you shift right click with this book, you can actually store these constellations in here. So that sucks to have that get deleted, not have these, because you need to be able to pull these out to set up constellations in the future, is my understanding. If you select something like this, you can actually hit, is it Shift Q? So Q is my drop button, right? If I hit Q, I drop stuff. So it actually drops that book. Same with Thaumium. Shift Q drops it. So I thought that was a pretty cool tip that somebody had left in the comments. And I had no clue about. My Astral Sorcery, the start of my temple. And you might be wondering, why did I build it over here? Well, real briefly, when you fly around, you can find Starlight, this blue stuff on the ground. And I found some of it here. So when you build in this zone, you got to hold this either in your offhand. Notice how I can fly like that, which is pretty cool. And as long as you're not too far above, you can see the blue below. So yeah, this Fosic Resonator for finding the Starlight clusters is pretty cool. I mention it because if anybody's like me and they don't really read the Astral book, the Sextant, I had never made one of these before. They're kind of cool actually, because when you look around, you can mark temples. Like let's say I'm looking here and I say, hey, there's something there. If I hold shift and drag, nope. Boom. So what that's going to do is it's going to tell me if I fly over in that direction, I'm actually going to physically find an abandoned shrine that I can loot for material. And that's not incredibly useful, right? Because generally when you're exploring a world, you find tons of temples, but finding one of these ones is actually kind of nice, because I think they're pretty big. And you can see it through the trees. But the other main use for this is by right-clicking on the altar, it actually tells you what's missing. Oops. I'm not as quick as I thought I was. So if I tap this, look at that, it tells me something's missing. And if I have the wrong block and I tap it, of course it's going to show up red. So I'd always found these things pretty difficult to make, but I'd never bothered to make one of these before.